You're going to hear no a lot more than yes. You just got to keep pushing, keep digging, keep driving, keep running. Like, no should be more of a drive for you.
But thank you for tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Nixon. I'm a senior at Ohio Wesleyan University in Delaware, Ohio, where I also play football. Just about every week on this podcast, I try to bring on guests who are viewed as leaders and motivators in the world of coaching, business, and just life. I talk to them and they share some advice for all of us. You can catch a new episode every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to follow the Roughnecks Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. You can find us on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast and Twitter at Roughnecks Pod C1. If you ever want to contact the Roughnecks, message us on social media or email at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. Let's get into this week's show. Joining the show this week, we have someone by the name of Artie Douglas. I first met Artie my senior year of high school when he started getting into training and while I was training at Elite One Fitness. Along with training, he is also an entrepreneur and has started his own apparel company called Only My Best. You got to make sure you check them out on socials and give them a follow. They have some really sweet gear that you need to check out. I'm very excited to share my conversation with Artie Douglas this week. Oh, by the way, I will get it out of the air. Artie is the son of boxer Buster Douglas. If you don't know who he is, first off, shame on you. And second off, go look him up because you'll see why he deserves the respect. Let's get into this week's show. Artie Douglas, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Roughnecks Podcast. Thank you for joining for.
What's happening, brother?
This is episode 13.
No problem, man.
I first met you through Elite One Fitness, where you would actually come run with our group too. I was the oldest in the group, and sometimes I would take it easy a little bit. But when you would run, I would get so pissed because you were always faster than me, and I don't think I ever beat you, and it just pissed me off. But it really did help me, and it pushed me a lot. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no problem. It's actually funny. That's one of the reasons why I went there, because Garver, he called me and told me he had a guy that needed some pushing, and it was you.
So just to start, give us a little background on yourself.
So I'll just go ahead and say I'm the son of James Buster Douglas, the former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Little athletic background. I played football, basketball, and ran track in high school. Then I went to Otterbein for a year and ran track and played football there. I lettered there for both sports. I was a starter for a receiver. Did the 4x1 and long jump at Otterbein. And then after that year, just didn't work out. Life kind of changed a little bit at that moment. And then, probably right around the time Garver called me and asked me to come to the gym is when I actually kind of started the whole boxing career for myself personally. So, and then ever since then, it kind of just took off right there at that moment.
So you said you played you played multiple sports in high school. What made you go on and decide like football and track?
Football was always was my first love for sports, period. It was like, I'll never forget the first time I saw football was when, I don't know if you remember, when Randy Moss played for the Vikings and the quarterback was Dante Culpepper. It was I forgot who they were playing, but that was the first time I saw football, and I'm like, yo, I want to play. And then that's when I asked Dad if I could play football. And we signed up like the next year. We didn't sign up that year, but we signed up the next year, and that's when my football career started. Basketball was kind of like the in-between sport. I wanted to take it serious at first, but it just didn't work out too well for me personally. I had more enjoyment with track and football, and I was fast for track.
Did you box?
No, not at all. I did boxing as a workout. I never competed back when I was little. I think I just used it. Yeah, I just used it as a workout. I never competed. I went to the gym a few times. I actually thought about it when I was around. It was always in the back of my mind. I actually thought about it when I was probably, I want to say like second grade, but other than that, it was always just like Dad would just take us to the gym during the summer. We would use it as conditioning for our next sport, and then I would be. It wasn't until after I left Otterbein, had a little 2-year gap of no sports or 3 years, and then I was like, you know what? Let's actually give this a shot. Let's start fighting, and just kind of went from there, pretty much.
So what's it like growing up? I mean, you've probably been asked this question 100 times. Like, what's it like growing up with the father who is still well known in the boxing world?
It's funny. Like, when I was little, people had to tell me who my dad was. That's how like laid back he is. It wasn't like he just kind of told me. It was his dad to me. Like, he was dad, and that's the best way for me to kind of explain it. I don't know how else to really put it, but it was more of just like dad being dad. Like, he did most what dad does. Just he had that title of heavyweight champion of the world.
That's a good thing though. Like, it didn't put a lot on you.
Oh yeah. Like, it was real laid back. Like, to do something, I had to like tell him constantly, like, hey Dad, I want to do this. Hey Dad, I want to do this. Because if not, he wouldn't touch it at all. He would just kind of do his own thing until I repeatedly told him, and then kind of do that right there.
If I'm not mistaken, you guys have a long line of boxing history in your family. Am I correct?
Yeah, it actually starts before my grandfather. I'm not too familiar with it, but I know it was before my grandfather, but it really took off because of my dad's dad. So my grandfather, he was the first national Golden Glove champion in Columbus, Ohio. What else did he do? He was a very tough fighter. He had I think his record was he had over 50 plus fights. He was 47 and 10 or something like that. It was ridiculous. Like, he fought. It seemed like just looking at it, it seemed like he fought almost every week type stuff. But that's how it was back then when he fought. And then it was Dad. Like, Dad took it. My uncle, his brother, was a fighter. And then I was just it's one of those things that just kind of fell right in line. Like, all right, I'll do it. It's kind of in the pedigree a little bit.
Yeah, so I was going to ask this,
line, so.
But I think I kind of already know the answer to it now. I was going to ask if you ever felt like your dad's success overshadowed you, but like, as you said, your dad it was never like that. And I give your dad a lot of credit for that. Like, it was never your dad and then you were just there. It seemed like you almost did your own, like you were your own, he let you be you and write your own legacy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Dad definitely, he stayed out the way. If you ever went to one of my high school games or anything like that, he would always be in the corner. I mean, minding his own business, watching the game. He never wanted to, he never went out to see the attention. It was just, he knew it was already there. So it was not like he's like, hey guys, look at me, don't focus on my son type stuff. It was like, nah, focus on him, leave me alone. It was pretty much one of those. It was just he did a really good job with that, and I really am happy that he did do that, because I've seen, you watch a lot of other celebrities and their kids and stuff, and they do get overshadowed. But me personally, I took it as a challenge. That was okay, so now I actually have something to compete against. I got something that I gotta granted, it's a big thing to do. It's gonna be really tough, but at the same time, it's at least I have something to be all right. If I can walk into a grocery store or do something, and before they say, hey, are you Buster's kid? It's like, oh, hey, what's up, Artie? You the kid from wherever they saw me. And then they go Buster's kid, and I go, yeah, okay, I did that. Yeah, I'm definitely, it's one of the ones that kind of helped me figure out, okay, I'm actually good at something, or I'm a nice guy, one of the two, I'm not just labeled as Buster's kid and that's it.
So you said you do training. What all kind of training do you do?
For what?
So do you box train? Do you train other athletes, or do you train as yourself right now?
So I train my dad is my boxing coach. He's my trainer, in other words. But for me, when I do training, I train athletes. Kind of took over what Garber does with the athletes. I take any athlete, any sport. We work on their athleticism. We work on building them as an athlete. I also do a little bit of boxing. I mean, it's just more of the workout side, but other than that, it's just more PT, one-on-ones. Just get right, get fit,
What made you want to get into that?
I always wanted to, but it was just one of the ones that just never had the drive until it was actually, I feel like I needed more experience, You know, I've always wanted to be a coach, always wanted to do something to help others, but I just didn't feel like I had enough experience during those times that I really wanted to push it until this moment, or like about 5 years ago when I actually walked in with you guys. You know, started helping you, started helping the guys that you were around. Kind of felt that was like the moment where I felt like, okay, I feel like this is like the right time. Plus, you know, I'm young, I'm in it, I have experience. Like I can like tell you how you're feeling at a certain moment. You know, like it's like that experience. I feel like that's helped me separate myself from other trainers as well.
It makes you almost feel like you have a little bit better connection with the kids that you're
right. Yeah.
You feel like you understand it better.
Because it's like, you know, like no, not everybody knows what it feels like to get the wind knocked out of you, or know what it feels like to take a punch in the face. You know, not a lot of people know that. Especially, well, yeah, like even in bar fights and stuff, that's completely different. Street fights is different. It really is different, because like I spar with dudes that like they be going like after you get done sparring, they be like, man, like that is different. He's like, I've been in street fights, and that was, you can't run, you can't call timeout. It's like, no, man, you in this little box, and for 3 minutes or 2 minutes, we going at it. Ain't no timeout, no nothing, you know. So it's just one of the ones like you help. It's a better connection as well, and I feel like the athletes that I train and the people I train enjoy that a lot too, because they understand, they feel more confident in me when I tell them to do something.
Oh yeah, exactly. And especially too, like you're not afraid to do it with them. That's one of the things I've always noticed,
right.
Like with coaches and trainers, like when they do it with you, you're like, oh wow, like he's doing it too. Like he's not like, all right, do this, all right, get it done. You're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna step in there and do it with you. Because I have a buddy who I just did a podcast with last week. He is 2 years older than I, and he's a head coach at Danville, and he's like, I work out with my players.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he's like, I'm in there with them.
Yeah, it creates that bond that a lot of, like, it helps separate your team and your camaraderie against other players. Like you have a better bond with the players. You get that vibe, you get that feel, and then the players believe in you more. And then it's like it all goes together. Where like when it's crunch time, you're 21-20. You're on the 10-yard line going in, grade win the game. You're gonna believe in one each other more, because it's just like, all right, this is what all the work's in. I know he's gonna know how I'm feeling. I know how he's feeling. We're gonna get this one type stuff, you know, and just build that type of environment, that culture that all the coaches always talk about.
Exactly.
To have success and stuff.
So you've done different training.
Yeah.
You've like trained for football. You've trained for boxing. You've trained for track. Which one do you prefer? Like, I guess which one's the toughest?
I would have to say boxing, because I used it for football. I used it for basketball. I used it in every sport, because there's like, it's just that type of conditioning. You just, man, it's a different beast, because you actually use almost every muscle, to be honest with you. It's a different soreness. I don't know, like, that's kind of hard to say in this, but like, it's like, you know, like when you do football and stuff, like you get, like when you first put your helmet on, your neck gets a little sore at first. You know, you get that soreness. Shorter pads, your upper body gets tight. But like boxing, you do like one day, and your whole body, you're like, man, why are my legs hurting? Like, I just threw punches. And then like the next thing you do, like, my chest hurts. Like I didn't touch anything. It's just one of those ones that's like you just feel it everywhere. So I would say boxing would probably be the toughest, because it also is there mentally as well. Because you're going for 3 minutes straight. Well, like the way my dad made us train, we would go 3 minutes straight for a round, and then 30-second rest. Then we'd go right back at it for three more minutes. And in that 3 minutes, we're staying busy. We're throwing a lot of punches, and we're doing a lot of stuff. We're moving constantly. So it really takes a lot out of you if you really get into it.
You went on to start Only My Best. Where did the idea come from?
So it was actually, if you go back to when Dad took off, well, when Dad was ready to fight Tyson, that was his slogan or whatever, because it was on the hat. Like he had that red hat he had Only My Best on it. I've always loved the name. I've always loved it because it's been around us the whole time. Like every time you see Dad or you see people around Dad, they always had like Only My Best hat. So it was like one of the things, like for me in my mind, it's like I've always wanted to run my own business. I've always wanted to, like, you know, that was something I've always wanted to do, is be an entrepreneur and have something like that. So I was like, well, shit, all these other celebrities have their own brands, have their own T-shirts and stuff, and Dad never had none of that. So I was like, let me do something here, and I'm like, let me just try to start a brand. And it was funny. I'll never forget the day I asked Dad I wanted to do it. I was going upstairs to like grab some clothes or something, and I just stopped. I was like, Dad, like, is only my best you? Like, did you come up with it? Was that all you? And he goes, yeah, that was all me. I was like, what do you think about starting a brand? Like, what do you think about starting like a little clothing brand, apparel company type stuff with it? We'll build around you. He was like, oh, shit. He was like, sure. You know, because I kept asking questions like, why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do all this stuff? He was like, I just never thought of it. I didn't have the people around me that brought it up. I was like, all right, well, let's do it. He goes, cool. All right, whatever. You know,
it just kind of took
laid
off
back
from
guy.
there.
So he's just like, yeah, Dad was laid back. So he was just like, all right, sure, let's do it. And we just kind of just went from there. And then he just, you know, it's growing slow, but we got it. We're working.
What would you say is some of the biggest struggles that you have to deal with, and how do you overcome those struggles?
So I would say the overhead costs, because everything, granted, I could have went out and did like the whole, let's get a loan for all the equipment, maybe even like a little building to rent out to do the T-shirt making and all that stuff. I just did it out of pocket. Like I bought everything out of pocket right off the bat. And I have it, and it's pretty cool. It's like I'm in the basement. Like I'm starting in the basement type stuff. You know, I wanted to cut some of the costs like that. So I would say the cost is really tough to overcome for me. And the way I have the brand set up is like self-branding, because it's based around my father. So not only do I have a brand and I have a celebrity, but I got to revamp my father back to this culture, like of you guys, myself. I feel like myself and the people I grew up with know my father, because that was like the time they were being born and they were still being talked about. So like after I would say when Dad retired in 1999, so from 2000 and up, Dad was slowly fading out of the picture. So now we got to revamp it and rebrand, in other words, rebrand my father. So doing on my best kind of helps with that revamping, kind of helps with the whole bringing my father back to the spotlight type stuff. And then plus also, I ain't gonna lie, like the Tyson fight made this 10 times better. Like I'm not gonna lie, like that stuff, because it's Tyson and Dad are connected for the rest of the time. Because anytime you're gonna bring up Tyson, you got to bring up my father in 1990 when he knocked him out and when he beat him.
Yeah, because look, honestly, if you Google Buster Douglas, the autocorrect thing is going to be knocks out Mike Tyson. That's what you're going to see.
Right.
And but it helps you. It really does help you as like a business owner.
For sure. Oh yeah, because it's like it really is one of the ones, like whatever he does, like whatever Tyson does, it's always going to come back to us. Because like, you know, like the headlines, like even last week or this past week, since Tyson fought, we get Dad's getting all these interviews. He's doing all this stuff, and it's just like they always ask him, "What are you doing now? What are you doing with this and that?" And then Dad's like, "Well, me and my son started a brand." Boom, exposure right there. And then, well, one, journalists help a lot, but they also make it even, like, for me personally, it's like annoying, but you need it. Like it's one of those ones like. So like Dad did an interview with USA Today. I keep talking about it because it's going to be around until it just fades out. But the headline said Douglas wants a rematch with Tyson. I mean, that took off everywhere. I mean, I've been just from the brand page, and then people reaching out to my father. They just want interviews. They just want to talk to him. Hey, are you really going to fight? Are you really going to do a comeback? And Dad being Dad, he goes, you never know. If the opportunity presents itself, you never know. And it's just like, dude, this is crazy exposure right now. Like,
exactly.
We're like feeding on it right now. It's really good for us, in other words.
And it's free. You don't have to pay for it. It just it's just there for you. For
sure. Like I can't. I mean, this would be worth millions for what we're doing right now. And I'm just like, all right, it's here, you know?
Yeah, because I'm a marketing major, and like we've talked about those things, like those that come to you, like use your resources. If it comes to you and it's there, it's not stealing or anything. It's just there. It's for you to use. It's your resource, and you're doing a good job of like using that as a resource, like you said.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, and and I like doing stuff like the brands help me for my major as well. Like I'm a business administrative major. Business is my degree, and just doing all this stuff is just like it's unreal. It's very fun, but at the same time, I can always see like it connects. And I don't know, it's fun. That's all I gotta say. It's really fun.
What are your goals for Only My Best?
So the goals I would have to say would be number one is bringing my dad back to the spotlight, giving him the respect, giving him the type of it's most based on a line of respect that he deserves and needed back then. A lot of the people in this circle back then were just bad. Like they weren't good business people at all. They, instead of taking advantage at that moment, taking advantage of everything, being able to get as much as they can at that moment, they sucked. They were terrible. I ain't gonna even lie. They were terrible. So like right now it's just like it's giving back to my father for like, this is like my version of saying thanks to my father, but I also continuing the legacy of what he built and my grandfather, to be honest with you. It's like they set the foundation. I'm just going to keep working on it and build from there.
Give me a piece of advice for somebody who could be an aspiring entrepreneur. What is your one biggest piece of advice? Because I took an entrepreneurship class this semester and we had a bunch of guest speakers.
Right.
They would all, like our professor would always ask them, like, give one piece of advice for an entrepreneur. What is your one piece of advice that you would give?
I would say don't fold when you hear the word no. You're going to hear no a lot more than yes. You just got to keep pushing, keep digging, keep driving, keep running. Like, no should be more of a drive for you. Because it's like that, when you hear no, it's just like, all right, whatever. And in your mind, you should have like, well, that's your loss. Because when I start my success and you come back to me wanting to reach out, I'm going to say no to you type stuff. So it's like, you just don't listen to the word no. Keep pushing, especially if you believe in it. Just keep working.
I like to ask all my guests this. What is the future of Artie Douglas?
A billionaire. I'm kidding.
You got to have dreams. You got to have them.
Right. What is the future for myself? I would say the brand is taking off to the point where getting talked about and is getting my dad's getting the respect that he wants without even, it's in stores. It's not just on the websites and e-commerce. I'm very successful. I'm doing everything that I've dreamed of and possibly having a title fight myself personally. That would be the greatest thing ever, because I feel like if I reach that pinnacle and get to that moment of being able to get to a title fight and winning, I feel like that would be the stepping stone of me being better than my father because of what I've built on the way up.
I like that. If you could go back and change anything, would you?
I would change certain plays in football, yeah. But there's a couple of plays I'm reminiscing. Like, man, if I would have just did one little cut different, I would have housed that. But other than that, I'm happy with what I've done. I'm still able to do everything that I've dreamed of doing, and all the opportunities are still in front of me. So I wouldn't change anything really. No, I'm happy with everything I've done.
So I like to wrap up every episode with what I simply call Motivation Monday. I ask our guests to give one piece of advice or a little bump to our listeners on their Monday morning. It could be really anything. So what you got for Motivation Monday?
I'm like, you gotta watch me work. I can't just tell you, man. Let's see. Oh man, Motivation Monday. I mean, it probably has to go with that whole just don't quit. Like, just because you hear no, just because you wake up in a bad mood doesn't mean your day has to, like, you have to end the day in a bad mood. Just positivity, stay positive, keep a positive mindset. Everything's going to fall in line. Like, it's always going to get harder before it gets easier. So if you know things are getting really, really tough, keep going. Because it's one of the ones that you're right great breakthrough. So just keep fighting and keep rolling. Let them hands go. In other words, like my dad says, before the bell rings, let your hands go.
And with that, that's a wrap on episode 13 of the Roughnecks podcast. Thank you, Artie, for agreeing to do the show. I had a lot of fun.
Hey, no problem, man.
Where can people go follow your business?
So you can catch me on IG at Only My Best Apparel. Also follow my dad on IG at official Buster Douglas KL. Follow him. You can do our Facebook page. It's Only My Best, plain and simple. Has my dope logo right in the front, right there. My logo.
Yeah. I got to get me some of that.
Let me know, man. I got you. I'm going to hook you up. Don't worry about it. I got you. You just got to come to the gym now. You got to come to the new spot.
Oh, I will. I'm going to here soon. I need a gym.
All right, brother. Yeah, come on by.
Thank you again for joining the show. For now,
hey, no problem, man.
That was my conversation with Artie Douglas. He's an entrepreneur, trainer, leader, and mentor. I'm very grateful to have him join the show for episode 13 of the Roughnecks podcast. I'm also always grateful for everyone who listens to the show, as well as the ones who have helped me along the way, such as P&H Studio for the logo design, and BadPod and Your Podcast Editor for their editing services. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast and Twitter as well at RoughnecksPodC1. If you want to contact the Roughnecks, you can email roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. For now, Roughnecks out.